Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. Our shop is full of games, but the one we are going to work on today is this Gottlieb's Four Seasons pinball machine. Never doubt yourself, people. I was looking at it and I thought, this is a Gottlieb Four Seasons. And then I thought, wait a minute, that says Williams. I misread. We're all the way across the room. I'm trying to give you the scope of what's going on in our shop here. People have been bringing us repairs and selling us games, and we've just got stuff everywhere. So most of this stuff you see, eventually we will do a video on. We took a couple games out of here even that were old stuff that we've had sitting around a long time that we're not going to get to yet because we've got all this stuff. What we've been trying to do, and this has been going on for like 2 years. We've been trying to empty this side of the building so that we can work on all the games over here. So you may have seen in some of our last videos that we've been working on the stuff kind of right here in this area. But we just keep getting more and more games in. We've been fixing them as quick as we can, but, you know, still attention to detail and doing it right. And then once we fix them, we move them over here to this other side of our building and put them in the showroom. And we've got a little bit of room over there for fixed games, so we need to repair some of these and get them moved over. But we took we had an old poker machine we put in storage. We had a off-road challenge that we put in storage because we've already got an off-road challenge here that's working, that's for sale. And we had a jukebox that was in really rough shape that we put in storage because we've got plenty of cool jukeboxes here in the shop that we're going to be working on. So we are about full up, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop. So we're going to keep on keeping on. Well, today what we need to do is fix this customer's Four Seasons pinball machine that he brought to us. I say today we're going to start, but it takes usually of working on and off on it, you know, an hour here, an hour there, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. It usually takes us a week or so to finish one. So this will be the one that we're working on this week. It's Monday, and we're getting started on it. And hopefully we'll have it done by the weekend. So, cool old EM. I've had this one before. We owned one, and I think we worked on somebody else's, or maybe we owned two of them. The customer has told us he doesn't want us to do much cosmetic to it. The backglass is in pretty good shape. I see a little flaking on the ice skating girl's legs there, but the rest of it looks pretty good. So we'll get into all that and check it out. And the Playfield is pretty good, but there's a little wear out of these kick-out holes. We'll look at that once we take the glass off. The cabinet is in the typical condition. Looks pretty good, but it's faded and it has wear here and there. These ones with the speckle paint, the whatever they call that, with the webbing, it actually hides that a lot. If you look very carefully, that is factory. Like that right there is a great example. Whoa, too close. That is factory. So they took the plywood, they painted it, and then they sprayed like a webbing all over it to break up the inconsistencies in the paint and make it look like there's a little bit of a texture to it, and it hides all kinds of wear. So you end up with a game that's this old that looks a little worn, but it kind of always looks somewhat like that because of the webbing. If you see one that's brand new that somebody has just restored and properly done the webbing on, of course it looks better, but it's just an interesting way that they hid wear on the cabinet. This one has the back door on it still, and it's complete and just sitting there. I didn't get any info out of the gentleman about what it's doing, but maybe we'll look in it and make sure there's nothing that's going to catch on fire if I plug it up, and we'll try to plug it in and just see what it does as he had it. You know what I mean? So people buy these at auctions or at yard sales or off of an operator, and sometimes parts of them work, sometimes they won't work at all. It's just kind of interesting to me to see what the customer saw, and then of course by the end of working on it, we'll get it to where it's completely working and everything's doing what it should. It'd be interesting to, every once in a while we get one where there's just one or two little things wrong with it, but usually it's completely catastrophic. The only hint I have is this one is reset all of the score reels, but look what's going on here. They're all back to 0, but you see how the two middle ones are really dark, especially that third one? That's dust. So what that's telling me is that 0 was pointing straight up in the air, so it was probably had a 3 displayed there for a long time. And it probably sat like that for years and years and years, maybe 30 years, to get that much dirt on the top of that score reel. Because if I'll show you whenever we work in the back box, if it was sitting like this, the dirt would be on the 7, I guess, because that would be what's sticking straight up in the air. Or if it goes the other way, the dirt would be on the 3 or whatever. We'll see here. So you get my point. So it sat somewhere with a score on it for many, many years with the exact same score on it. That's why the thing's so dark. So this thing was put out of action and stored away for a long, long time. But recently someone has got it out and got it to reset, but it didn't kick the ball out, or they weren't able to play it or whatever. So it'll be interesting to get this thing back up and doing its thing for the first time in likely many, many, many years. And we'll clean off those score reels so that those zeros look nice and pretty whenever we do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lock bar off, slide the glass out, and we'll look at the playfield a little closer, and then we can look under the playfield. So to take a lockdown bar off, you reach in, and on these there is a little lever right here. You slide that like that, and your lockdown bar is no longer locked down. You can pull this straight up. It's a lot easier with 2 hands. Once you pull that up, you can pull the glass out. Now, that lever, when you put the lockdown bar back on, slides this little system here over those little bolts and holds it in place. And that's what locks down the lockdown bar. Alright, so let me slide the glass out and let's get a better look at that playfield. Okay, I got the glass out. The instruction cards are missing. The flipper rubbers, that's actually the wrong flipper rubber, but the customer put those on there, so we'll probably put them back like that. Those are actually supposed to be little rings like that. But these are more like traditional flipper rubbers, so it's fine. They're little 2-inch stunners, though, so you're not going to get a lot of action out of it. But if you look, there's really not a good shot to the top. I guess you could make a shot. You might make one right through there. And you may be able to do it with those flippers, but these older games, they just, you know, you don't need the flipper action that you had on the newer games. So what typically happens is people that have played games, and by newer I mean from like 1970 up, if you know, modern pinball machines, they're more used to that type of pinball. This really is a completely different thing. Yeah, this is a pinball machine, but it's a classic pinball machine. They just play completely different. Playing an old EM like this is nothing like playing a modern Stern or a modern Jersey Jack pinball machine. It's completely different. So I run into, a lot of times, people will expect the flipper performance out of one of these old ones that is on the new ones when they're not designed like that, and it's not necessary either because the playfield's not laid out like that. So on this game, you kind of, once the ball gets down past this, it's going to stay down here. You know, the game is going to be played right here. You're not going to get much opportunity to get the ball back up here. That's just the thing. So yeah, that's that. So this game, it's called 4 Seasons, and basically they're just showing off the 4 seasons. So you've got the summer girl here. She's out skiing. It's great art. She's knocked the guy off of the boat who was no doubt ogling her. What's the proper way to say it? I've only ever seen it spelled. And then you have the spring, the raining things, and the girl's wearing a nice raincoat, and the dude's checking her out. Now, if you think about it, folks, this is right around the time that the hippies were being hippies. So they weren't really all that prudish back then. So it may look like simple art, but, you know, she's got a short skirt on. The guy's checking her out. Let's see, where are his eyes aimed? Okay, well, so that's the spring. You've got, it's really well done art. Look, he stepped into the puddle. probably being completely chauvinistic, trying to get out of her way, and stepped off the curb and stepped in the water. You've got the little birds up here. Nice little flowers there behind him. You can see that he's lost his umbrella here because he's looking at the girl. There's somebody driving in that car. It's just cool. We also have the winner over here. Somebody's car is overheated. The girl has her skirt on yet again. It's doing her thing. Somebody's falling on their behind on the ice there. This guy's over here ice fishing. And then you've got a guy and a girl over here trying to stay warm on the fire, and she's wearing a skirt too. So, just cool art. And then down here you have Smokey the Bear. Obviously. And he's holding his hands up and saying, I surrender. He doesn't want to get shot because the girl is now hunting. Because that's what you do in the fall. And she's got her patented skirt on. You got the rabbit and a little raccoon over here. And then her license plate number is 362434. Unbelievable. Oh, I just noticed on the guy ice fishing, the fish is popping out of this hole mocking him. You missed me, sucker. So, at first glance, these back glasses, oh, okay, I see what's going on. But if you actually check out the art on them, they're really cool. And it says it's more fun to compete because they want more than one person to play at a time. You know, you make more money that way. So here on the playfield, you have the four girls again. Now their clothes are slightly different colors. I wonder if that's... I think it's because the back glass has more colors on it. So when they made these, they silk screened the art. So if you look at the colors on the playfield, we've got white, and then there's like a peach color, which is the same as here. And then there's a red color, that's 3, which is the same here. Then there's a green, that's 4. There's a light blue, like an aqua, that's 5. There's a yellow, that's 6. There's black, that's 7. And that's it. So they did the entire playfield with 7 colors. So if you look at the girl's outfit, it's a little simpler. Like, let me see where there's a difference. So when she's skating, the outfit's different. Just different colors. Right? Because on the back glass, they probably got more colors. They would spend a little more on that usually. So you've got white, again. You've got the same peach color, which they're using as a skin color. But now you've got like a brown. Like the bear, that. And then they always did this interesting thing on this, and you can see this in tons of pinball art. They did shadows with a complementary color or a darker color of the color that they were shadowing. So like her skin tone, look how well that's done with an orange shadow. It's like a brown or an orange. And then they were able to get an extra color, usually. I think this is how it's working. You can tell me what you think. By just the way that the paint is slightly translucent. So you see that the orange on her neck and her face is a shadow of the peach color of her skin. But in her hair is yellow, and then the same orange is used in it, but it looks different because there's yellow behind it. So it's actually the same color. You can kind of tell there above her eyes. It's just it has yellow under it, so it just looks a little different. So you've got white, the peach color, orange, yellow. You see 2 colors of green there. That's 6. There is a red. Yeah, this has a bunch. I don't know if that might be the same trick where they've got the orange on yellow. You've got the blue, like a light blue, that's 7. You've got a dark blue, that's 8. And then you do have a red here, like a burgundy, that's on the guy's shirt, that's 9. Which we'll assume is this red and that red, although maybe not, you know. But at least 9. Then you have a straight up brown up here. Yeah. So that's 10, and they're using it as the shadow on the bear. Look, the bear has 2 colors of shadow. So it's 10 colors. You still have black. That's 11. They're dealing with more colors, so they can make things a little more detailed on the Backglass than on the Playfield. Some of you, that's probably boring as crap, but to me, it's really interesting. It's just awesome. Now, when you look at the plastics, a lot of times they used even less colors. So, this is a great example. Like, look how well this is done with just a few colors. So it's white, some sort of skin tone, that's 2, red and blue, and black. So it's 5 colors. And that's all of the colors that they use on any of them. White, skin tone, red, blue, black. And you know, to use 5 colors and make it look that cool and be that descriptive is just awesome. So it looks like, and that, you know, some of them back then didn't even have kicker slings. I mean, plastics. So 5 color plastics, 7 color Playfield, at least 11 color Backglass. We did a video on a flip-flop one time, a Williams flip-flop, and that thing had like 16 colors or something on the Backglass. It was just a miracle that they were able to do all that. So, to me, that's just really interesting. Okay, so you got the 4 girls drawn here, but like I said, they're not as detailed. And then that's basically what we're seeing on those plastics, too. Here's our fall girl that's hunting. Here's our winter girl that's skiing, or skating. Here's our summer girl that's water skiing. And then here's our spring girl looking at the birds, which is basically what she's doing in the Backglass too. So these themes like this, they get a lot of crap from people. Oh, it's just a boring old thing, blah, blah. But they put a lot of thought into it. There was a time whenever somebody came up with this idea, and then the artist sat down and spent a considerable amount of time trying to decide how he can best show off that concept. And this is what he came up with. So we'll have to look him up here in a minute to see who the artist was. Now, the most dominant thing on this machine is there's these 2 little arrows here in the middle. The way these work is the ball just hits them, and then it moves a, you know, like a finger or whatever on the bottom of the playfield. We'll look at that here in a minute. And it works exactly how it looks. So if this gets knocked around by the ball to where it's pointing at 5, and this is like, see what I'm doing? It's easy to move. That can just get knocked around either way, anywhere. So the ball can hit it at any time. It's kind of an interesting concept. So let's say it's on 5, and this one is on 10. Well, you make 50 points when you land in the hole. Hole scores arrow value, and when lit, the same player shoots again. Hole scores arrow value, and when lit, the same player shoots again. 5 points and arrow value when lit. 5 points and arrow value when lit. 5 points arrow value when lit. 5 points arrow value when lit. So you can score that what's shown on the arrows at any time. 5 points arrow value when lit. Now another thing to look at is if you're thinking about how this thing was designed, the mechanics of it. Remember, all of this is done with switches and relays. There's no computer. So the rules kind of have to be simple because they're literally wiring it to work. So what you end up with is the same feature all over the playfield. So these score 5 points, these score 5 points, these score 5 points, right? If this lights up, now these score the arrow value. If these light up, these score the arrow value. If these light up, they score the arrow value. This scores the arrow value. That scores the arrow value. If these are lit up, they score the arrow value. So it's just, there's a bunch of different ways to do the same thing on the playfield. And of course, if this is pointing at 100, you score 500 points every time. And then it can point at this star, which I think gives you the special. We don't have the instructions, but basically, if the special was set on free ball, you would get a free ball. Special was set on free game, you get a free game. So pretty cool. So it's just an interesting little gameplay mechanic, and this one spins around the same way. Just anything will knock it around. The ball coming down will hit it. The flipper can hit it. Just anything. So it's an interesting little idea. And then you've got the 3 pop bumpers, 10 points when lit, 100 points when lit, pretty standard by that time. And then up here at the top, it's going to say, targets and red bumpers, holes light the indicated features. So if you land in the middle, you're going to light the targets and the red bumpers. So these targets, red bumpers, I'm thinking is the holes. When lit, same player shoots again. Red bumpers. That is the red bumpers. I think that's what it is. And then if you land in A, B, C, or D, you're going to light A, B, C, or D. And then if that one is lit, whenever you score that, you will get the arrow value. You can imagine if you've got that set on 500 points, you can rack up a ton of points really quick. And remember, on these games, the score will only go to 99.99. So 500 points at a time, you roll the thing over if you do that 20 times. But on these, you don't want to roll it over, because if you do, it has no way of knowing that, and you're back to 0 points. Okay, so the playfield, interesting layout, but, you know, kind of the typical 60s type scoring and engineering, I guess you'll say. All right, so let me lift up the playfield and let's look at the bottom of it. All right, so got the out-hole kicker there. The coil doesn't have the paper on it anymore, but that's no big deal. Completely unnecessary, but it kind of protects the wire. The 2 flippers. You want to see how much wear is in them. This doesn't look good. Okay. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Yeah, this is going to be a really weak flipper. See how much play is in it before it moves the flipper? Well, I don't know. It might not be that bad. We're going to replace it, but it might not be that bad because of the way it's designed. So basically, the way the coil is going to energize, and then this is going to start pulling. And as soon as it pulls, it is moving the flipper. So, it might have worked all right like that. You're looking for wear either here or here. Because what will happen is this will start moving and it will leave this behind. So you lose a little bit of the power. You can imagine Nolan Ryan throwing a fastball, one of the fastest pitchers ever, but now he can't use the first foot of his windup. The ball's not going to go as fast, right? There you go. Perfect analogy. It's the exact same, folks. Exactly like that. It's exactly like that. In-lane and out-lane switches. The trough switch, which is what will make it the ball count unit go up probably. And then these 2 here are the kickers. We're just looking to see if anything needs service. Obviously, the flipper links need replaced. The 2 holes, they look fine. And here are those little units. You can see how nice they designed everything back then. I mean, it's not a cheap little thing. It's done pretty well. And I don't know how many games they put something like that on, but I don't remember seeing it on anything else. You know, now that I look at it though, with those screws, is that what they were using for the score reels at the time? It may be similar. You might wonder why these have a big resistor on them. It's because they're using the solenoid voltage to light up that light for some reason. It's just some way that they decided to wire it. We'll look at it and figure it out. Here's the 3 pop bumpers. And then here are the 2 coils that are going to kick out the ball from the top 5 holes. Look how they've chosen to do that. So that if the ball lands in any of those 5 holes, it will hit a switch to turn on whatever feature that hole represents, and then it will pull in both of those coils to kick out all 5 holes at the same time, so that they didn't have to have 5 different mechs. They only had to have 2 mechs. Smart stuff. Then you got a bank of relays here that are going to turn on various things. And then here under the playfield, it's pretty dusty. You got your score motor here. This all looks like nobody has touched any of this. I mean, obviously somebody messed with that flipper, but everything is kind of here and doing its thing. I take that back. Let me show you one thing. See how the traces there are darker towards the edge? It's because somebody's cleaned those up at some point. Kind of even looks like I can see like where maybe some sandpaper or something's been ran over that at some point. Let me see if I can zoom this in. Yeah. It looks like maybe that's been cleaned up with sandpaper years ago. So maybe somebody fixed it up at one point. You've got this here. What would this be, you say? I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Then you've got a relay bank there behind it. It's typical in Gottliebs of this era. That's going to be your game over relay, your start relay, all that stuff. First ball relay. Second player, third player, fourth player relay, I think, is the other things on there. And then all of the scoring relays, the hold relay, the start relay. Did I say the start relay was over there? We'll figure it out. Doesn't really matter. You just fix whatever's here. You know, they already figured out how to make it once. You don't have to figure it out again. Oh, there we go. I was about to say, are we missing a bell? No, it's right there. There is the bell. All right, I see something else somebody has added. They put tape on the end of the flipper armatures. Now, why would they put tape on the end of the flipper armatures? At this generation of Gottlieb has a weird flipper setup. You press this button, and it pushes that little lever, which pushes the other end. Both sides work like that. And then the flipper switches are actually located up here on the playfield. So when the playfield's down, you know, they line up over the flippers. Now the reason they put tape on it is because this is protected by a little piece of paper. See that? Is it even there anymore? I guess that's it there. I think this has been messed with too, but that little armature will hit this, which makes the flipper switch go together, which makes the flipper work. But the problem is, let's say you're doing this and that little thing is just barely touching this metal bar, or this little piece of fish paper here that's between it breaks off or something. If the metal of this blade or this blade is touching the end of that flipper armature, you've got 25 volts or 40 volts or whatever it is on this, and this metal button. So you will shock the hell out of yourself. And then this one kind of works upside down. Yeah, see, you can see why they did it. It's because of this side. Basically, this piece of metal is broken off. That blade probably hits it like right there, and that's right where it's broken. And so the blade is probably going to just hit that. You can kind of see where it has been. It's going to hit that, which means you have metal on metal. And the power running through that switch will also be running through your finger. But you can stop that really easy. You just put a little bit of tape on the end of it, and now it's electrically broken. It's not a problem. Now, I know that scares the hell out of people. Look, folks, that's how they did it. That's how they did it back then. All right, so let's see what's in this. Ah, bunch of flipper stuff. This is sad to me, actually. People save flipper rubbers, pinball rubbers, but you can't use them, folks. Once they get all yellowed like that, they're junk. Here we go. Somebody was ready to make them ends. So it's an entire Ziploc bag full of quarter wrappers and nickel wrappers, because the front of it must be set up to accept nickels and quarters, which is pretty cool. I like it. Here's some O-rings. I don't know why they would need O-rings. A whole bunch of them. Here are some bolts, which is what they used, I guess, to rig up the flipper thing. Here's a couple coils that were on something or the other. Not sure. And then this will tell us something. This is a 4 Seasons rubber kit. So all the rubber rings for 4 Seasons. And it came from Marco Specialties. And Marco puts a date on it. There we go. June 1st, 2017. So 7 years ago, it looks like somebody swapped out the rubber rings. Did you see this one's all dirty? So these must have been the ones that were on it. So 7 years ago, they got new rings. You would think that that was probably when it was last running. All right, so let's look in the back box and see what it looks like back there. So it has a nice original back door, which I think these are just solid copper. Is that what that is? Or is that just some kind of plated? That's not copper. It's just plated. It's that plated copper-looking stuff. Electroplated or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's not that important to me. And then here in the back box, you've got 16 rat trap score reels, as they call them. These are the decagon shaped ones, where they have, if I can get it out. Come on. I'm trying to show a point. They have faces on them. The later ones, and I think the earlier ones, were actually round. There's just another bell. And then this unit here is folded down when it snaps up in there, and you put a little clip in it, and it stays like that. The ball count unit. They have knocked loose or unplugged this bell, and if you look, that's stuck. So it could be this is starting to melt. So why would that melt? Well, because it's probably overheated because it was locked on, and that's probably why they unplugged this. We'll leave that off for now. So let's say this doesn't have a dummy reel, does it? No, no dummy reel. So you can actually score 1 point on this game. So let's say that the ones unit here is tied to the bell. Every time you score 1 point, that bell rings. Well, if anything on the playfield that scores 1 point gets stuck, it will go ding, and that thing will stay energized and will slap burn up. So if you ever hear one do that, you got about a minute to turn it off before you burn the coil up. You can imagine operating these things out on location, you run into that kind of stuff. Now, it's not going to kill anything, but it might burn that coil up, and you might need a new coil. We may need a new coil for that one, but we'll see whenever we get to it. Another way that it can do it is the points lock on. So what happens is you hit the switch on the playfield for 1 point, and it's not connected directly to this reel. It's connected to the 1 point relay, which is usually, I think, in. So it's going to be one of these probably. So it turns on the 1 point relay. Okay, the 1 point relay holds itself on through switches that run through all 4 of the 1 point relays, the end of stroke switches. So the reason that it does that is so that you always score the 1 point. So the 1 point switch on the playfield turns this on, and then it stays on because it's also connected through switches through all 4 of the 1 point relays. Then, depending on whatever player is up, the player unit, which I guess is the thing in the bottom, depending on where it's set, let's say we're on player 1, the switch over here turns on the coil in there to move it forward 1 point. It moves it forward 1 point, and then when it gets all the way back, it opens up a switch. The switch that it opens is the switch that's holding on the 1 point relay. When the 1 point relay pulls in, not only is it providing power to all of these 1 point score reels, it's also providing power to the bell. Right? So once this pulls all the way in and it opens that switch, this relay goes off, which makes the plunger fall back out of the bell because it doesn't have power anymore, and it makes the coil release on the 1 point relay. Since it's pulled back, the little actuator, the little cam or whatever, the plunger, goes back out and it pushes the score up 1 point. So if there's a switch stuck on the playfield, this locks on because it's constantly getting power from the switch on the playfield. Well, if this is locked on, your score reel's locked on because it can't let go. And if this is locked on, then your bell is locked on because it can't let go. Until this falls out, that bell will keep going, and that thing will be stuck about where it is now. Now, why is it there? It may usually be a little higher. Okay, yeah, so I'm feeling it right here and right here. It's because this thing, the plunger hangs down here. When this energizes, it pulls it up and it overshoots, hits the bell, and then falls back down. If this were to stay on, usually it won't be touching the bell. It'll be kind of stuck in the middle here. It might be a little higher than that usually, but it'll just sit there and stick. This sleeve inside is nylon, and this will start heating up after a while, and it starts melting that nylon. Once it melts and deforms the nylon, then the plunger's stuck in it, and that's what we're looking at right now. So at some point, probably the 1 point reel, it might be the 10 point reel or whatever that's hooked to, locked on. It may have burnt that up, and it may have at the same time burnt up the relay on whoever they were on. Now remember how this one is all dark on the top. We were looking at that earlier. Yeah. That 10-point reel, it's real dark. Why would that be? Well, maybe it burned up while it was on 3. And then for a long time they tried to get it to reset and it wouldn't because the coils burn up. Because the 10-point relay locked on and the 10 points is what's on the bell or whatever. Right? So you can kind of tell what's going on just by messing with them. Once you've seen them a lot, you can look at it and go, ah, yeah, their relay was locked on. I'm just trying to explain it all to you. And then this is the replay unit, telling you how many credits are on it, essentially. A couple of these are going to be for resetting the score, but we'll just have to go through it and see what's up. Okay, so I'm confident that everything looks like it's there and in the right spot, and I don't see anything that's going to catch on fire, other than maybe that. Oh, and this won't, by the way, because since one of the wires is unplugged, this can't get power anymore. But the coil probably still can. So I'm going to put the Playfield back down, and we'll plug it in and just see what kind of action we get out of it, and that'll give us an idea of what the customer was seeing from their end, and decided that they wanted us to fix instead of them trying to walk through it. Alright, so this is how it came up. There's power on the Backglass. There's no lights on the Playfield. There are lights on the scorecards. I don't know where game over would be on this. Oh, it's tilted. Okay, so yeah. Typically when you pull the power back on, it will come up tilted. You can see, strangely, the only damage to the whole Backglass is the winner scene, and it's just her legs. Now, it's common for... Well, I see a little more now that I look. It's common for one color to be the problem, and unfortunately, a lot of times it is the skin tone, which really screws up a lot of the Backglasses because, you know, 70% or so of the Backglasses had a pretty girl on it, and then if her face is all splotted up like that, it makes it look like she has leprosy. But that's how it is. So you see... Miss Fall here got away just fine. And our summer girl looks just fine. But there's a little bit of it on the Rain the Parkin' Things girl here. But it's just on her dress, so it looks pretty decent. So it might be a good idea for me to spray the back of this glass so it doesn't get any worse. There's a little bit of splotching on, you know, the number here, the first player. Second, third, and the fourth one too. The fourth player, a little bit. But it's to the point where it's so minor, and considering the condition of the cabinet, there's no way I would pay for like a reproduction or something. You could probably get a reproduction from like BG Resto or something, but this one's pretty nice, so I would leave it alone. Alright, so the Playfield has no light on it. Some of these you can get the light up by pressing the left flipper, but I might get shocked. You don't think it's going to get me, do you? This is not one of those like that. Gottlieb may have not ever even done that. Okay, I just noticed that has popped loose. I don't like that because the... Ooh. That rubber band off of there. Yeah, so maybe that's too small. I don't know. We'll mess with that. We'll make sure Joey knows to pay it special attention. All right, so I'm just going to try to put a credit in it. Just hit start because it's already got credits. It looks like it has more than 15 credits. So I'm just going to try to hit start and see what happens. Kick the ball right out. What do you think about that? And look at this. We're on ball numero uno. I wonder if this is the scores turned around. Nope. Ball numero uno. So, not too bad. Oh, that's bad. That's what I was talking about. Ball number 2. Let's see if we can figure out what's locking on. You heard boo, right? It's going to play itself. Okay, let's do it by hand. So this is 10 points. Sure sounds like it, doesn't it? So is that the bell trying to work? No, because it's unplugged. That can't be it. Yeah, so we got something going on there. You know, I always work through all of it, though, so it doesn't really matter. 5 points. Yeah, it's definitely the 10 point. The 1 point is actually working great. Pretty cool. Okay, and then 40 points. It probably was going to work, but didn't work because the thing going on. Let's see, 400 points. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so cool game. I think it's in pretty decent shape. Yeah, you got the wear here and there, and there's a little bit up here as well. But it's a lot of it's working. Let's see if it'll end the game. It stayed on 2. I wonder if I have it on the same player shoots again. Yeah, so we got issues. And it is lighting up the red bumpers, so maybe that's what they call that top one when you land in it. All right, so that's what we're starting with. So where do you start trying to fix it? Well, the way I do it is I could work through the bottom and then I work through the back, typically. So I'm going to go ahead, turn it off, and I'm going to remove the Playfield, and we can start messing with that bottom mech board, cleaning up everything, seeing if there's any problems as we go through it, adjusting switches if they need it. We don't adjust all the switches, just the ones that are obviously out of whack, and we'll go from there. The only thing that really I can see is that maybe the ball count isn't working quite right, and I'm sure everything's just kind of tired and needs work through. So that's what we're going to do. All right, folks, so we got the Playfield out of it, and I was able to clean out all of the stuff that was laying around inside of it. I vacuumed it up a little bit, and we're ready to go. However, this video is getting awful long, so we'll see you next time. If you like this 4 Seasons, I believe I may have another video of it here on the channel. If I do, I'll put it up over here. But if I don't, this is a similar era multiplayer from Gottlieb. Check it out. But we'll see you back here in a couple days whenever we get started working through the bottom of it and see if we can fix some of these issues for this gentleman. Hope you enjoyed the video.